Hello everyone, this is the Tradelands Nation back with another video. This time we're going to be reviewing the new exclusive ghost ship, the Reaver. Before we go any further, a quick disclaimer. Our post on the Tradelands Nation website has actually garnered some feedback, and we want to be very clear that we fully respect and appreciate Blacksmith's contributions to the game, and this review is in no way a reflection of his excellent work. Some members from the other groups that work alongside of ours are game designers and modders themselves. We have an appreciation for just how much work can go into making creations like this for the games that we love. This review is purely a reflection of how the ship was implemented in game and to provide as much information as we can in case others are looking to buy this, especially considering that once the ghost ship vouchers go off sale, players in-game are likely to require a very hefty price for those who want to afford it. Now, back to our review. On October 28th, the developers announced on Discord that a new ship, the Reaper, would be an exclusive ghost ship. The price point for that ship was a whopping 10,000 Robux, or roughly 110 US dollars, if you're looking at it that way. That's an impressive price tag for what is essentially a microtransaction within Tradelands. Now, we know some people will undoubtedly claim that this is an unfair practice, but to be honest, this is fairly common. A good example is DCS, or Digital Combat Simulator, which is a free-to-play game, but you have to purchase the planes that you wish to fly. Here is an example of the F1 Mirage, and it costs $65 to purchase. These models end up getting scrutinized by their players down to the number of rivets that are used on the panels. It is a constant point of criticism by its fans, and it makes sense why. If you're going to sink that much money into something, then you expect to get your money's worth. So, the question is the Reaper worth it? And we're going to look at 3 specific aspects to determine if it is. The first is cosmetics, and to be honest, we personally felt a bit misled on this one. In the developer's original post, they provided a low-resolution image that gave the impression that the ship had a cabin, but it doesn't. The other thing we could see was it clearly has a ram, and we'll test that out later, and then it also has 3 lateen sails, which look almost identical to the ones on the Marauder. But what the picture didn't show is what the ship looks like at night. And when we tried ours, it looked like this. Honestly, maybe I just had high expectations for a $100 ship, but I honestly expected that the sails on this thing would be transparent, or at least be the same color as the rest of the ship. These large triangle sails take all the fun away from this. When you look at them at specific angles, you can't even see the ghost portion of this ship, they're so big. More so, when you stop the ship, you can actually see the white sails that glow while they're furled. Why did they change? That's the real question. In fact, while we were recording this video, there was another ship that appeared on the horizon with beautiful golden sails. I was expecting this experience when I bought this ship, and now I just feel ripped off over such a small thing. Clearly, they have the ability to make these sails look ghost-like. I can see it on another ship. Why couldn't they do it for this one? I mean, the ship I'm looking at costs less than the ship that I'm in right now. So I also looked into this a little bit more, and I've learned that there is actually a 1 in 3 chance that you will get one of these partially ghosted ships when you buy this. You spend $100 for a 1/3 chance that your ship will only be partially ghosted. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. And per the developer's update on October 30th, certain accounts, which they haven't disclosed in advance, can only get this type of color combination. So if you happen to be one of those accounts, you will get this. So if you were expecting to get a fully ghosted ship for 10,000 Robux, my advice is you had better be very, very careful with your expectations. The next thing we reviewed was performance characteristics. Here, there was more disappointment to be had. I saw a lot of players in game who presumably owned this ship saying that it was just like the Marauder, just with a ram in front. It didn't take us very long to debunk most of those. Yes, there is a ram in front, but it doesn't do anything. We tried to use it to ram a couple of other ships, and we found that because it has a vice-like claw on it, it can't actually latch onto anything, which means it's not very good for boarding. Oh, And the ram doesn't actually do any damage, by the way, just in case you were wondering. But the most shocking discovery is that the ship is nothing like the Marauder. In fact, in a side-by-side performance test, we found that the Marauder beat it in every single category except raw firepower. I mean, the ship has a 4 heavy cannon broadside, which is impressive, but it's still not enough to outclass the Marauder in our view, especially if you're looking at it for pirating. The next thing we did was test its ability as a trader, and it does have a cargo capacity of 14, so surely it should excel in this category, right? And here we found the biggest surprise of all. If you actually try to drive this thing anywhere near a dock, the chances are you can't back it out and it will freeze in place. Why? Well, that's because of the ram, which is actually hidden under the water, by the way, and not visible to you. It will collide with the pylons on the dock, causing it to freeze in place unless you parked perfectly parallel with the dock. Since you can't reverse or reset the ship in any way without going to the actual dock master to reset it, effectively you're stuck there. Moreover, even if you try to park parallel to the docks, passing ships can still knock you around. This is especially a problem with the number of small ships that you'll have in a harbor like Whitecrest. They can nudge you just enough to get the ram stuck. And believe me, this was way more frequent than we actually thought it would occur. I wondered why, after just 10 minutes of testing, that's all we did, that we could uncover so many problems, and then it occurred to us that this ship, if it was even playtested at all, was probably done by experienced players who would focus on its combat characteristics only. After all, they are probably the ones the developers expected that would purchase this ship, not a bunch of new-gen players who are considering trading in it. Anyway, our final verdict, if you haven't figured it out already, is that if you missed out on purchasing this ship during the Halloween event, guess what? You might have actually done yourself a favor. I certainly hope this ship gets some love though, as spending $100 on a ship that was well below our expectations is not a good place to leave your buyers. Truthfully, we originally intended this video to be a review of all the ghost ships in the game. But after this experience, we had to completely shelve that idea and do this review on one ship instead. The main contributing reason why we didn't want to go further with this was after our frustration testing this ship, we didn't want to end up with a fleet of half-ghosted ships, and we certainly didn't want to stop midstream just so we could point out all of these flaws. Furthermore, we think this ship was actually templated off of another. You see, players thought this ship was modeled after the Marauder, and I think that's because of the sails. But do you really want to know what our data showed the ship that was actually used as the template? It's nothing other than the Corsair. The sailing metrics, the speed, the turning rate, crosswind, even the tacking. Looks like it was all modeled after the Corsair with slight modifications. The ship has 8 medium cannons, the Corsair that is, while the Reaper has 8 heavy cannons. They both don't have a cabin, they both carry exactly 100 cannonballs, and they have a cargo capacity of 14. Which means the Reaper is just a Corsair with an upgraded cannon with no chasers. That, for most people, will also be partially ghosted at night, because you will be getting a white version of it. And the question you have to ask yourself is that worth the $100 plus price tag that developers are asking for? And if you think it is, then I guess I'll see you with yours in game.